Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, you know, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
They did a crime.
Did a crime. This podcast contains graphic descriptions that some listeners may find disturbing. Listener discretion is advised. Now, with that being said, welcome to the Mortal Musings podcast.
Right, let's do this.
How would you usually answer the phone?
Hello? How else does someone answer the phone?
Well, the reason I'm bringing it up, I don't know if you remember, but I think it was about 2 weeks ago now, you rang me, and when I answered the phone, I said, "What's up?"
Yeah.
And you were like, you didn't even speak. Like, you didn't like start your sentence of what you were ringing me about. You just went, "Why do you always answer the phone like that?"
Yeah.
I always do it. What's up?
Ignorant.
Is it? I don't
Yeah.
think it is. I'm just like, "What's up? What are you ringing me for?"
Yeah. It's like, what do you want?
I don't mean it that way. I get a bit anxious. I don't like being on the phone. I'm much like Jackie, we discussed in part 1.
Yeah.
I do not like being on the phone. It makes me anxious. I don't like it. If my phone starts ringing, no.
But I'm not a cold caller.
But if you're ringing me, and it's not like you said, "I'm going to ring you at 3:00 to let you know, blah, blah, blah."
I'm your partner.
I would still probably get anxious about that.
I'm your partner, your friend, your colleague.
But you were ringing me to tell me something. So, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, what's up? I really do think it's like an anxiety thing with me.
Do you know the one what pisses me off?
I'm waiting for bad news. Go on.
Yellow.
Who the hell says yellow?
Yeah, no. Dicks.
Have you experienced this?
Yes.
Oh.
It's people copying Homer Simpson.
Do you know what's funny is you're saying, "Oh, it's ignorant to say what's up."
Yeah.
Didn't you used to answer the phone by simply saying "speak"?
Yeah.
And you're calling me ignorant?
When I thought I was
10 men.
cool. Okay, I never thought I was 10 men.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 6. But yeah, someone would ring and I'd speak.
Speak.
Yeah.
What a jumped up little prick. Does it actually bother you that I say what's up?
Yeah, because it's like, what's up? Like, as if you're shooing me off like a fart.
Oh. Oh, I apologise. I don't mean it that way. It's just, like I said, just the crippling notion that something negative is coming. So it's like, what's up? What's happened? Is everybody okay?
See, I'm like that, but not with phone calls, with post.
Yes.
As soon as I see an envelope with my name on it, it's like, who do I owe?
Yeah.
What have I done?
Yeah, I hate getting post. Remember when you were a kid? I'd be like, "Oh, there's something to post for you." And you'd be like, "What?"
Yeah.
You'd be excited. "Oh, it's a birthday card or something."
Yeah.
Now it's like, what the fuck, Bill? What have I done? Oh, I went through the M50 3 weeks ago, forgot to pay it. Brilliant.
Yeah. So now we've determined that you're ignorant fucker.
Mm-hmm.
Part 2.
Part 2 of the Yuba County 5.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Are you excited to get into it?
A little bit more after doing the mini, I'll be honest.
Yeah, see, because the first part of this was much more about each of the lads, getting to know them a bit.
Yeah.
Now, part 2, we're going to get into the case.
Yeah. Okay.
So, because we literally just touched on the night in question, we're going to just recap over that and continue on.
Okay.
Sound good?
So is this the lunatic arsonist now?
What?
Is this the lunatic arsonist now?
Weirdo the Fireball Freak?
Yeah.
No, that's separate.
Oh.
That hasn't really got anything whatsoever to do with this case. I literally just covered it as a mini because it involved Gateway, and I was like, oh. You all right?
Drop my toothpick.
Oh my God. On the night of the 24th February, 1978, Gary, Ted, Jack, Bill, and Jackie set off for Chico. They were travelling there to attend the UC Davis basketball team in an away game. The following day, they were due to play basketball themselves. something that they were looking forward to, each preparing their clothes for the following day. A beige t-shirt with gateway gaiters across the chest. Ted had also made sure that his white high tops were clean for the game, and Gary had asked his mother to make sure he didn't oversleep, as they had a big game that Saturday.
You can imagine how excited and, like, to the families that they're like, nothing else matters.
Yeah.
It's this game,
Yeah.
you know?
Jack, one of the only two who had a licence, was the one to drive the lads that night. Before leaving for Chico, Jackie's father turned to him and said, "No booze, no smoking, no girls."
And they did exactly that.
Into the evening, once the game had ended in victory for their team, they drove to Bears Market, 3 blocks away, and they picked up some drinks and snacks shortly before 10 p.m. for the drive back home.
They've just been told no drinks.
No drinking.
Yeah,
No alcoholic beverages.
yeah. What drinks did they get?
I'm going to tell you now.
Oh,
So they bought 1 Hostess cherry pie, 1 Langendorf lemon pie, 1 Snickers, 1 Marathon bar, 2 Pepsis, and a quart and a half of milk.
this is before the game.
After, for the drive home.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
As the lads left Bears Market, this was the last time they would ever be seen alive. At 5 a.m. the following morning, Ted's mother Imogen wakes up, and her son was nowhere to be found. She immediately phones Bill's mother, who had been awake since 2 a.m, and she tells Imogen that Bill hadn't come home either. Panic starts to set in. This wasn't like their sons to not come home, or even to not make contact if there had been an issue. And of course, the lads wouldn't have wanted to miss their game that they'd been so excited for. Once all the parents confirmed that they had not heard from their sons, the police were contacted. Now, when they first reported the lads missing, they were told the classic line of, "They're over 18, you gotta wait 24 to 48 hours. So they decide to search for the lads themselves, and then they called the police at 8 p.m. Police in both counties sent out search parties, but there was no trace of the lads. A few days later, a ranger from the Plumas National Forest contacts investigators to say that he had spotted a car parked in the forest on the 25th of February. It was Jack's 1969 Mercury Montego.
And they weren't in it.
The car was empty.
Okay.
He hadn't reported it immediately, as it wasn't unusual for people to leave their cars parked up there before, maybe going skiing in the area. The location of the car was curious. It was found 70 miles from Chico, way off the route that they would be taking to make the trip back to Marysville. Not to mention that none of the lads were dressed to be travelling out into the wilderness. They were all wearing just, like a light jacket, that kind of...
Yeah.
The car was undamaged. There was still a quarter tank of fuel, and maps were found within the glove box. Although it was clear that the car had wheel spun, it was parked just coming into the snowfall. It's not like it had gotten stuck in the snow and they just abandoned it.
Yeah.
And there was also 5 of them. They could have easily shifted the car, given it a push if they needed to. Also, this car was Jack's baby. There's no way he would have left it without a very good reason. The keys were gone, but the police were able to hotwire the car and get it started.
That's tampering with evidence. They can't get in that car. What about DNA and all that?
Well, they did need to find out what was going on. The car was operational.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's no keys. They got to do something.
If it's hotwire it, you got your ear under the steering wheel.
Mm.
You're going to get your airs and stuff in the car.
Yeah, but 70s.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, actually. Fair point, well made.
The police also noted that, with the rough terrain that they were driving in, with a full car, it was impressive that there wasn't a mark on the underside of the car. Although Jack was known to take incredible care when it came to his car, he did not know these roads. And their families confirmed that not one of the lads knew these roads. Bill was the only one who had been there once, but it was 8 years previous with his father.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have remembered. Within the car, police found empty containers, food wrappers and programs from the basketball game that they had just attended. By the time police had found the car, there was 9 inches of snowfall. If it was treacherous for the searches to continue, just imagine how difficult it was for the lads out in the forest.
And they weren't taking up skiing.
What?
And they weren't taking up skiing. Because they were saying before it weren't unusual for people to park the car there.
No, they absolutely were not going skiing.
Okay.
Now, with that snowfall, as you can imagine, it hindered the search, and not much could be done until it cleared. Jack's brother said that during the time that the search had quieted down, quote, the silence was just unbearable. Between family and friends, they offered a $1,000 reward for any information. Lieutenant Lance Ayres of Yuba County, he had attended the same high school as Ted and his brothers. He was plagued by this case. He just couldn't get his head around it. As with a lot of cases, there was multiple alleged sightings of the lads. All led nowhere. Getting desperate for answers, he indulged in psychics.
Ugh. I don't want to... No, I'm gonna.
I'm on the same page as you here.
Like, why? Did you know that there's people out there who believe they are animal psychics?
Yeah.
Not only animal psychics, dog psychics. Like, they'll go to a crime scene and ask the dog what happened. And the dog just looks at him and they're like, he just told me he did it.
It's like the end of Forgetting Sarah Marshall when she has her new show and she's like
Yeah.
pet psychic.
Yeah.
There's a reason they wrote that into the fucking movie because it's fucking dumb. So I'm going to, like I said, he did go to a psychic, was in communication with a psychic. I'm going to tell you what he was told.
Okay.
And then we can continue this point.
Okay.
So one of them told him that the boys had been kidnapped and murdered in Oroville. They gave him a description of the house. So what did he do? He went looking for this specific house. A 2-story red house with a gravel drive, numbered either 4723 or 4753. He spent 2 days driving around Oroville to find that no such house existed.
Of course it didn't.
Of course it did. I have to be honest with you. I fully understand this man with his desperation for answers. I understand it. You're trying anything. Possibly, maybe, what if something happens? But I think it's fucking disgusting. This whole kind of like any type of psychic commenting on fucking a murder investigation, a disappearance kid, anything like that. I think stay out of it.
Yeah.
It's so fucking inappropriate.
That is where you should say to the cops, look, it's entertainment value.
Essentially, you're sending them on a wild goose chase. Or someone who is, when I say okay, someone who we are able to find and bring back safely or relatively safely. Yeah. Sometimes you hear of a psych going, yeah, they've been murdered. See, they're buried here. And it's like, what the fuck? Do you know what you're doing to their friends and family by saying that?
What they should do is, to test the theory out, get 5 psychics. Yeah, 5 separate psychics. Mm-hmm. Bring them in, put them each in a room and ask them the same questions. Get the answers out of them. Mm-hmm. And then be like, well, at least 4 of you are fucking talking shit. Yeah. At the very least, 4 of you are fucking lying.
It's like I'm not into the whole psychic medium thing. It's not my scene. But look,
it's the same as ghosts.
Don't believe in them either.
Right, so with psychics, I don't believe it until...
Yeah, you don't believe it.
Okay.
I
don't believe it until, prove me wrong.
But you're also quite gullible. So it'd be quite easy to trick you.
Well, no. I don't mean for someone to come up to me and go, you had a pet cat called Samson. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, well, that's common knowledge. Tell me something what people don't know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like on the lighter hard side of it, fucking God bless if you're into that and you enjoy that. Great. Stay the fuck out of murder investigations.
Yeah. Or abductions.
Any type of crime.
Yeah.
Just don't go near it.
Well, you just focused on murder.
Yeah, I did, yeah. I just felt it was the most extreme, but yeah, crime in general. Leave it alone, lads.
Yeah.
Now, something else that didn't help in this case is how it was covered in the media. They would consistently refer to their disabilities in reports of the disappearance. So on one hand, you've got people that read this and are almost more concerned for their well-being. But then there's the people who look at it as, almost less important, sort of a reason for why this happened.
Right.
On the 4th of June, motorcyclists were travelling through a deserted trailer camp, nearly 20 miles from where Jack's car was found. While there, they got the smell of decomp and decided to check out the trailer.
How do they know what decomp smells like?
Inside, they find the body of Ted. He was laid on a bed within the 60-foot trailer. His frozen body was found beneath 8 sheets, which had been pulled up and tucked around his head. His hands were left, crossed over his chest. Now, how Ted had been left, he looked as if he had been swaddled. He wouldn't have been able to tuck himself up like that himself. Someone else would have had to have wrapped the sheets around him. He was also missing his shoes, and on the table next to the bed, his wallet, his gold necklace, and his ring with the engraving Ted. Also on the table was a gold Waltham watch, and according to the families, none of the lads owned this watch. Now, Ted was a bigger guy. He was 6 foot tall and around 200 pounds. But by the time he was found, he had lost between 80 and 100 pounds.
Fucking hell.
His feet were severely frostbitten. And Ted had been clean shaven the day they disappeared. And from the growth of his facial hair, it's estimated that Ted had starved to death over a period of 8 to 13 weeks.
So far we know that robbery weren't involved. So maybe that's one of the other lads. They got lost. Went for a wander, they got lost. Came upon this trailer park. He was like, we'll stay here. But because of the weather and the temperature and no food, your man died. So that was their way of covering him over and left. I don't know why they take his shoes. You okay?
Yeah.
What?
Because you've got loads to go and you're immediately like, right, I've got my theory. That's good though that you're thinking about it. There's plenty of theories with this case. The following day, the bodies of Jack and Bill are found. They were laid on the roadside, one on each side, leading towards the trailer, about 11 miles from the car. Jack was laid face up, with his right hand clutching his watch. His body had been dragged about 10 feet towards the stream, and animals had started to eat at his remains. Bill's remains were found scattered across a 50-foot area in the woods. His remains were not much more than bones at this stage. 2 days later, the remains of Jackie were found. His father was there the day of discovery. The police had warned against him joining the search, but this was his son.
Yeah, it's understandable.
Further up on the same road where Jack and Bill were found, they found Jackie's shoes along with his Levi jacket. A few bones were found, but his father was the one to find his spine. The following day, his skull was found. It was located about 100 yards downhill from the rest of his remains. Jackie's father said, quote, "When they pulled the search off here, I didn't need their help. I'd find my son. And I believe I proved my point. And I'm going to continue till I help find the rest of them too. One way or the other. That's all I got to say."
So, sorry, I have 2 questions. Where the bodies were found, how far away from where they lived was it? And where the bodies on the road was found, how far was that from the abandoned trailer park?
So the trailer was over 19 miles from the car, and Jack and Bill were found about halfway between on that road.
Right.
And then Jackie was a little bit further up towards the trailer.
Okay.
So it's a fair old distance.
So it's not looking
in
good.
that type of weather especially.
Yeah. So it's not looking good for your man who was found in the trailer.
Ted?
Yeah.
You're turning on Ted?
No, but I'm thinking logically. He's the one who was the furthest away from the car. Do you know what I reckon? There was a gold watch.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't belong to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
They robbed someone. They did a crime.
Did a crime?
Yeah. So could have killed someone, robbed someone, and they got the watch off him.
Okay.
Then there was arguing at the side of the road.
Yeah.
Who gets to keep the watch?
Mm-hmm.
And Ted killed them all, bit by bit. And then got to the trailer park, and he was hiding out there, but he died of starvation and the atmosphere. Case closed.
Okay, absolutely fucking not, but thank you for your theory. Thank you for your input.
Oh.
Yeah.
I tried. But wait, no, that's 4. You said there were 5 of them. So where's the other lad?
Gary.
Gary.
So Gary's shoes were actually found in the trailer. But as for Gary himself, he has never been found.
Oh.
By the 19th of June, the search was called off. If not for this, maybe Gary, or his remains could have been found. The police were told repeatedly by multiple parties that there was a trailer up there and they needed to check it. But the police just seemed to think that, there was no way these lads could have made it that far. They wouldn't have made it all the way up there.
But they did.
They did indeed. And you got to remember, when they started their initial search, the lads were still alive. Ted, it was alive for between 8 and 13 weeks. I understand the search was dangerous.
Yeah.
But it's a heartbreaking thing that they were told about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that they were alive during that time.
I do have another question, but I'm fairly certain you're not going to know the answer to it. I want to know Ted and Gary's shoe sizes.
So, Ted...
Oh, you know.
I don't have his exact shoe size. Ted did wear a bigger shoe size than Gary.
So it's not like Gary left his shoes and took Ted's?
That's a possibility, yeah.
Okay.
You also have to remember, Gary was on medication for his schizophrenia. So if he was still alive, he would have been in an already, very trying situation, which would have been exacerbated by his mental state.
Yeah. Fuck. I forgot about the schizophrenia.
The trail that Ted was found in would have been locked, but he and one of the others gained entry through breaking a window. The day before the lads had disappeared, a snowcat had cleared the snow from the roof of the trailer. It's thought that this is why the lads made their way in that direction. They're simply following the tracks that the snowcat had left behind.
Yeah.
Within the trailer, there are matches found, along with books, wooden furniture. So, these could have easily been used to start a fire in order to keep warm. There was also C ration cans, which had been opened with an Army P38 can opener, although it's thought that only Gary or Jack, who had served, would know how to use this can opener. In another locker, there was dehydrated dinners and cans of fruit cocktail, enough to sustain all 5 of the lads for about a year. There was also a gas supply, but they hadn't turned it on.
Shit.
But in regards to this, Ted was, clearly a very good-natured and incredibly honest person. He viewed taking his hard-earned tips as stealing from his employer. So it's not crazy to think that he did not want to take, the food or whatever, believing that this belongs to someone else. That's wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a fair point, well made.
So, the car was operational. It had fuel. They were not dressed for the weather. They'd stopped for food, but clearly just for snacks to tide them over. And all of these men were homebodies. The only one of them that would ever stay out at night was Gary. So we can't, there's no kind of rhyme or reason to it. We can't go, oh, well, maybe they did this, maybe because of that, None of this makes any sense.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void were prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Another strange detail of this case. The night the lads disappeared, there's another car on the road. A 55-year-old man named Joseph Shones had drove up that way at about 5:30 p.m. to check what the snowfall had been like. He was hoping to bring his wife and daughter up there that weekend. He had parked his car about 50 yards up from where Jack's car would be found. So Joseph's car gets stuck in the snow, and he's trying to free his car. And while doing this, he suffers a heart attack. He was able to get himself back into the car and get the heat on. A little while later, he hears a noise. A whistling sound. He looks down the road, and from what he can make out, headlights shining, it looked like a group of men, alongside a woman with a baby. He says he calls out to them for help, but receives no answer. Hours later, he made the 8-mile journey back on foot to the Mountain House Lodge, walking past Jack's car, which was now empty. So, like you mentioned earlier, it was also noted that Gary's shoes were found, and Ted's were missing. Gary had tennis shoes, whereas Ted had been wearing leather boots. So, did Gary take them after his death to better protect his own feet and carry on?
Not looking good for Gary.
A lot of people are sus of Gary in this case. Gary actually did know some people in Forbestown, which was halfway between Chico and Yuba, but he hadn't been in contact with those in Forbestown in about a year. But the turnoff is supposedly easily missed, so especially with them driving at night, it's not out of the realm of possibility that Gary was directing them the way and they just took a wrong turn.
Yeah.
But again, it doesn't seem likely, seeing as they had to be up early the next morning for their game. And they lived for the Gateway Gators. I highly doubt they would do anything to jeopardise them being at that game. Some of their parents didn't even want them to attend the game, because they had their own game the following morning.
Yeah.
I mean, also, it's just how far out they'd driven. They had actually, this was into a national forest. It's not kind of like they turned off and they were slightly off onto a back road.
Yeah.
There has to be a reason why they drove all the way out there. Again, it's not like their car was on the side of the road and, they perhaps wandered down a banking to use the bathroom or something.
And the woman with the baby, who's this?
We don't know. I mean, that's...
There's so many questions with this already.
So, I mean, did they pick up a hitchhiker and from there did things go awry? Could that possibly be an answer? Jackie's brother Tom believes that it was someone the lads knew who was responsible for their disappearance. He doesn't believe that Gary had ever made it to the trailer where Ted was found. As there were 4 sets of footprints leading up there, he thinks that there was someone who held a grudge against Gary and took his vengeance out on all of them. So Tom clearly has a specific person in mind. He says that this is someone who is well known in the area and someone not to fuck with. He thinks that this person beat Gary to death, throwing his body over the Oroville Bridge, which leads into the Plumas National Forest.
I think he knows too much.
You leave Tom out of this.
Well, where's he getting all that from?
I mean, I can see what he's driving at. So he thinks that after this happened, the lads were so terrified that they just, probably as they were instructed to do so in this scenario, just drove on, just kept driving and ended up driving far out. He also believes that the reason why Gary's shoes were there is because Ted took them with him.
Why?
What do you mean, why? It was his friend's shoes. He may have just picked, if we're going to, lean into this theory.
Yeah.
That was his friend's shoes.
That sounds plausible.
I'm not going to leave him there.
How far they drove.
Mm-hmm.
See, did this person have a gold watch?
Possibly. But why would they have it?
Lost it in a bet?
Possibly, if we're going by his theory that Gary had stole it or something, and that's why they had it.
Yeah. I think we're cracking the case.
Just crack the code.
I'm finding cracks everywhere.
Now, he also thinks that it was Jackie who had wrapped Ted in the sheets, stating that, quote, "My brother would never leave Ted alone, not if he was alive." Because you got to remember, Ted and Jackie were, like I said, they were ride or die. They were best friends.
Yeah. No,
and it's a very caring, nurturing thing to swaddle a person.
Yeah.
You know? Now, Gary's sister Tammy thinks differently. She believes that Gary did make it to the trailer and he was the one to care for Ted. That Gary and Ted were the ones who made it further in order to seek help. She thinks that Gary became lost after separating from the group, and also to factor in that he wasn't medicated at this stage.
Yeah.
Although investigators can't prove foul play, they can't disprove it either.
Yeah.
While some believe that someone or some others had involvement, others speculate that Gary played a role in the disappearances of the others. Jack's niece stated that, quote, "I do know, God forgive me, Doc and the other guys were scared of Matthias. Gary was going to go to the game with them and they didn't really want him to go, but they were too scared to say anything, and that came from my uncle."
See, the other thing is, what we could look into is there any sort of training in the military for some sort of swaddling? Because then, could that be Gary who did it?
Jack was also in the army.
Yeah. I don't know. This case is going to do my head in. I already know this.
There is so many questions.
Yeah.
So many. Every time you get a bit of information, it kind of almost sets you back.
Yeah.
Because you kind of throw something else off that you thought you would kind of piece together.
It's not it sets you back, it's just there's so many different aspects of it. But then there's so I don't know how to word it. There's so many theories, and all of them are like, yeah, that could work. Yeah, that could work.
No, I get this is what I'm saying to you. You kind of figure one bit out and then the other bit fucks off once something new comes into play.
Yeah.
It's a ponder, as you would say.
Yeah. I think it's a poser.
What?
I think it's a poser. I think that's the term. It's a poser.
No, it's not.
Oh.
It's a wonder.
No, it's definitely a P.
Ponder. I told you before, ponder. And you're like, no, absolutely not. To ponder something. Now, it was said that some of the parents were a bit wary of Gary. And this was because he'd become a part of the group. And for a long time, it had just been the four of them. Just the new kid on the block.
Yeah.
Someone else had stated that the only explanation that they could see was that Gary's psychosis had returned and that somehow he had persuaded these guys that this is the right thing to do. Could be the case.
Mm.
But it could also be the case that it's easy to put the blame on someone's mental state and that it's all sort of wrapped up neatly when you have no real answers. It's very easy cop-out.
That's what I was just about to say. It's very easy to go, well, the one who's not there, who has schizophrenia, he did it.
Exactly. I think that if there had been any issues in regards to Gary's mental state or his behaviour, I would assume it was after the fact when he would have been without his medication.
Mm.
His brother Mark also stated that Gary couldn't function if he was without his meds, and therefore there would have been no way his father would have let him go. Remember, his parents were very active in caring for him and making sure he was taking his medication and everything was okay. There's been an abundance of alleged sightings of Gary. None of them have amounted to anything. In October of 2020, the Yuba City Sheriff's Department has ruled that they believe Gary was a victim of foul play. After the disappearance of the lads, Jack's mother said, quote, "They wouldn't have fled off into the woods like a bunch of quail. We know good and well that somebody made them do it. We can't visualise somebody getting the upper hand on those 5 men, but we know it must have been." Ted's sister-in-law said, quote, "They seen something at that game, at the parking lot. They might have seen it and didn't even realise they seen it." Ted's mother said that while they were searching for the lads, that she believed they are being held prisoner somewhere. Before the discovery of the bodies, Gary's father said, quote, "I think they're either in Oroville Lake or 6 feet under brush somewhere. You have to think about that now." After their bodies had been found, Gary's father said, quote, "I can't understand why Gary would have been that scared. All those paperbacks and they didn't even build a lousy fire. I can't understand why they didn't do that unless they were afraid."
Yeah, they were told not to.
Now, I'm going to loop back around to something for a minute.
Okay.
Joseph Shones. When I first read about Joseph, I was like, all right, okay, slightly weird situation, but, whatever. But while I was reading Things Aren't Right, the disappearance of the Yuba County Five, Tony was breaking it down. And I was like, oh, hang on a minute now. Things got interesting, okay? So let's talk about old Joey Shones. Joseph had multiple run-ins with the law, including driving under the influence, theft, and being drunk and disorderly, which drunk and disorderly can include a wide variety of things. For example, Richard Speck pulling a knife on someone.
Yeah.
That was downgraded from assault to drunk and disorderly.
Yeah.
And when I say theft, he borrowed his neighbour's car and just never gave it back. He just fucked off with it. So we're not talking about like a bit of petty theft.
Yeah.
Fucking car.
Depends on the car, really.
Wow. He was described as, quote, one of the biggest bullshit artists in the world by one of his neighbours. And he was known to lie, including about his health, and known to spread rumours.
We know plenty of them.
We do indeed.
Where it's like 90% of what
Just
comes out of the mouth, don't believe it.
Shite spewing.
Yeah.
On multiple occasions, others had to help tow his car out of a ditch due to his drink driving. On the night the lads disappeared, and Joseph had gotten stuck on the same road, he'd vomited and defecated by his car.
Shit.
Yes, scutters. The following day, Joseph made his way back down to the lodge for help. 2 people in the lodge heard him say, quote, "I should have done this 2 years ago." When police talked to him and asked for further details, he became a bit defensive. He also seemed to pace around a lot while talking to them about his account, and he was just kind of unable to settle. At one point, he says to the officers, quote, "I get the feeling you guys think I know something about these dudes." Whenever he talked to media, he seemed to always make it about him as well. It was never kind of a, oh my God, I can't believe I was there that night, those poor lads. It was always more, poor me, no one offered to help me, I was in such a difficult situation.
Okay.
So, I mean, yeah, maybe.
Gobshite.
Maybe if you had a heart attack and that's pretty scary, you're up there,
Yeah.
but the difference is you made it home.
Yeah.
And perhaps the most shocking detail of all, he was a glasses wearer.
Are they thickens?
I don't actually know.
Okay.
Because I know it's more to do with the thickness of the glasses, isn't it?
So there's only his account, but there was a woman with a baby. So that could be made up.
He was a bullshitter,
Yeah. So I can forget that bit then.
I mean, the vomiting and defecating, that could be down to drinking, Or did something happen and he was unwell as a result?
Yeah. I don't know.
Your body can react in crazy ways. And
Yeah.
you can become physically ill from seeing or doing something or,
Yeah.
It's just a little bit sus. Why? The thing he said that I should have done this 2 years ago. What the hell's that about? What are you on about?
Yeah. Should have
What
done
are you
what?
talking about? It's I mean, this is out. It's out yonder. Out over there, yonder,
Yeah.
where they are. It's a little bit convenient with the 2 cars there as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't know. This is above my pay grade.
But yeah, no, I'll just leave that information there for you to consider. But
Ponder on.
it is a bit dodgy, isn't it? But in all seriousness, I found a detail in this case to be very haunting. And that detail is how Ted was afraid of the dark. It may seem trivial given everything else he would have went through, but for Ted, there was always the added torment of impending nightfall. Ted was the eldest of the group, at 32 or 33 depending on the date of his death. His cause of death was a combination of starvation and hypothermia. Jack was 30 years old. His cause of death, hypothermia. Bill was 28, and his cause of death was hypothermia. Jackie was the youngest, at just 24 years of age. His cause of death was determined to be hypothermia. Gary was 25 years old, and his status is unknown. He has now been missing for over 47 years.
And it's mad because it's only like a 20-mile radius what needs to be searched. Isn't it? 19 miles.
No, because there's an entire forest there.
Oh, yeah.
Although their deaths were ruled as being down to exposure, there really wasn't enough left of their remains to know if there had been any blunt force trauma or anything else at play. There are so many uncertainties within this case, but one thing is for sure. Each of these boys were loved totally and completely. And that is the case of the disappearance of the Yuba County Five. To close out this case, Ted's brother said that if Ted was still alive, he would probably be living with him. Quote, "Whoever had the most macaroni and cheese is who he'd stay with."
I thought you were just going to add something else to throw a spanner in works.
No,
Okay.
I don't know. It just it kind of just felt a bit sweet to me.
Yeah.
You know, their families were there for them. They loved them. They cared about them. You know,
What if one person had macaroni cheese and the other had Pepsi?
well, now see, that's throwing a spanner in the works. I don't know. I don't know what you do in that situation.
That's a rough one.
I don't know how to
I
tell this case.
I don't even
because
know how to give you a theory.
This is what I'm even telling it. I feel like I'm leaving it. It's a two-parter, and I feel like I'm just leaving it like, all right, see you next week. Because kind of there are no real answers.
Yeah.
I personally, when I give theories and shit, I don't want to influence too much with mine.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a little bit sus of Joey. I'm not going to hide that. But I don't know.
But
There's not enough to say anything.
And I'm there saying, I can't even give a theory, but I gave one like 10 minutes in.
Yeah, you did.
I was like, it's Gary.
I like, that's one thing I do stand by. I do not think Gary had any involvement. If Gary did or said or fucking acted any kind of way, I fully stand by that it was after the fact. I do not believe Gary was the cause of any of this. I think that is grasping at straws.
Yeah.
It's easy to target the person.
I think it's the old man who shot next to his car.
Joey Shones.
Yeah. But like, maybe it wasn't him, but he's involved in some way.
It's fucking sus. And like I said, he was known to be a liar, known to lie about his health, and that's what he said happened to him that night.
Yeah.
So he was there up in the National Forest all through the night. He can't be accounted for this massive time frame. He's claiming he had a heart attack. He's known to lie about his health. He says that weird thing when he makes his way back down to the lodge. The vomiting and shitting could be down to just being pissed up.
It's the 2 years thing.
What the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fucking
It's fucking sus. And we'd be here. Fuck me. This is the best part of 50 years on.
Yeah.
There's still so many questions, but
if our listeners, if you have a theory, what we haven't, well, no one's going to agree with my theory, but any sort of theories, what Megan said, what, someone's brother thought, someone's sister thought. If you have a different theory, let us know.
If you have a theory, let us know. Unless you're just going to blame Gary. I don't want to hear it.
But it's still a theory because he could still be alive.
But if you've if there's a reason why you think that, I do not want to hear the man had schizophrenia, therefore.
Yeah.
I just, it's don't go for the scapegoat.
Yeah.
It's
very easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bollocks.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Oddity.
Oddity. So we're going to talk about Marion Stokes. Have you heard of her?
No.
So Marion was a civil rights activist and archivist. In 1975, Marion bought herself a videotape recorder. She would use it, as we all did, to record her favourite sitcoms or documentaries. But in 1977, after watching the news coverage of the Iran hostage crisis, something clearly struck a chord with Marion. She felt it was important to record the broadcast for fear of the details becoming lost over time. Now, the problem was, Marion was obsessive about it. Her son said that she had channeled her hoarding tendencies into creating these archives. So if she was out for the day with her family, she would have to rush home to quickly change the tape, or either the day would be planned around the length of the tape.
Right.
It was a 24/7 operation. Of course, videotapes aren't the easiest to store in terms of, the size of them, they're bulky enough, and the sheer volume she had. It was, as her son put it, a logistical nightmare. And Marion, not wanting to derail her progress, was said to have had up to 8 TVs on the go at one time.
Fucking hell. It's like Grandad in Only Fools and Horses.
Yeah, I know.
Why does he watch 2 tellies? What?
One's for sound, one's for picture.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Neil, it didn't stop there. She had also rented multiple apartments and storage units in order to store her tapes. This was intense.
Yeah.
Now, the reason she had the money to rent all of these extra locations was she had invested in Apple stocks.
Oh.
Or Apple's stock, should I say. Yeah. Making bank. Marion's archive would grow to 70,000 tapes, covering over 400,000 hours of footage. And not just tapes, she was also said to have had 192 Macintosh computers in her possession.
Can I tell you a funny story about videotapes?
Work away.
So my dad, he had shitloads of these blank videos, and the cases he had for them. Right, anyone in the UK, I'm thinking only the UK, but I think every household in like the 80s, 90s had these. There was video cases, but they looked like books. There was green, red, I think blue, and you open them up like a book, and the video would be there. My dad had shitloads of them, and then there'd be a sticker on it, and it'd be like Only Fools and Horses Season 1, Episode 1 to 3, something like that. Fucking shitloads. He had all Laurel and Hardy's, Only Fools and Horses, Fawlty Towers. He'd recorded everything. I can't remember. It was when I was a kid. It was either a big boxing event in America, or it was something like WrestleMania. Something that was kicking off at like 3 a.m. But I'd got school. So I'd set it to record, but I just grabbed a tape before I went to bed. And I think it was like an old Speedway meeting or something. And my dad was sat rewatching it. And then all of a sudden, it was either WrestleMania or boxing just came on. And
that's when he beat you.
This is my story? No.
Beat you around the head with a tape.
Yeah.
On the 14th of December, 2012, Marion passed away at the age of 83. The day that Marion passed was the same day as the Sandy Hook school shooting. Her son said, quote, "I got to the house and this horrific news was going on. Kids being killed, teachers being killed while shielding children, that sort of thing. I remember being grateful that wasn't the last news she saw. After 3 decades, that was the end of Marion's archive, with her son stating that he respected her project, but that it was not his project. As we now see every day on social media, Marion was trying to stop the spread of misinformation. Of course, there's more to Marion's story, particularly with her being a civil rights activist, but that's the story of Marion's archive. How's that grab you?
She's a bit obsessive, isn't she?
Well, from what her son said, she was a hoarder, and she just channeled it all into this one thing, which, when you look at it from that perspective, she was right on the money.
Yeah.
You know, look at the amount of shite you see day in, day out.
Yeah.
She was just trying to preserve the actual reporting of the time.
Yeah. Do you know what else I was a little bollocks for with tapes?
Not rewinding them.
Oh, yeah, there was that. Yeah. Okay. That and something else. Say if I was in the mood to watch Only Fools and Horses.
Putting them in the wrong box.
Yeah.
Ah, you fucking prick. I
would take it out.
You know what?
Put the other one in, and then the one I took out, I'd put in the case what was in my hand.
You're an asshole. You are the worst type of person.
See, that wasn't as bad because they were all Only Fools and Horses. But if I'd moved from Only Fools and Horses to Stan and Ollie, or it was even worse if it was like Speedway meetings. If I watched like the 1984 World Final, and then I'm like, I'm going to watch the 1989 World Final now, and they'd be in the wrong.
Bet your CD collection was a load of shit as well. Bet it was a train wreck. Do you know what? I can't stand people like you. Why are you like this? No, seriously. Because you're the first person to get annoyed if you went to get a fucking CD or a fucking video and it wasn't the right one.
Yeah.
You'd be the first person to freak the fuck out. How dare you?
It'd annoy me if I was the one to find I'd done it.
You are so difficult to live with, do you know that? Thank you so much for listening. Find us on Patreon, TikTok, Facebook and Instagram. If you have a case suggestion, or maybe even your own story, email us at mortalmusingspodcast@gmail.com.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.